On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're stepping inside 4 homes that beautifully blend history with comfort. First, we travel to North Carolina, where a timeless home is filled with vintage elegance, beautiful murals, and cherished family heirlooms. Then, we explore a thoughtfully restored Victorian home in Franklin, Tennessee, brimming with original character, an incredible china closet, and lush garden spaces. Next, we travel to the Hudson Valley, where an architect lovingly revived a once-neglected cottage into a charming retreat. Finally, we tour a grand former Hollywood producer's mansion in Los Angeles, now transformed into a vibrant family home tailored for contemporary living. Watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. If you're looking to make your own space more homeworthy, we've teamed up with Chairish, our go-to online destination for chic, one-of-a-kind finds, sourced from the world's most wonderful vendors.
Mercury drops are from an artist I found on Chairish.
Whether we're after a bold statement piece or the perfect finishing touch, Chairish has extraordinary items that leave a lasting impression.
This table I bought on Cherished from Berlin, and it has a little bit of it's a tray, and it is mid-century, and it's one of my favorite pieces.
It's where we find iconic looks to set homes apart.
I think many dealers would agree that Chairish is the absolute best.
So to support Homeworthy and discover amazing items from Chairish, scan the QR code or click on the link below to start shopping.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Molly Williams.
I'm Charlie Williams.
And this is our home in Concord, North Carolina. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Molly Williams.
And I'm Charlie Williams.
Welcome to our home in Concord, North Carolina. I was living in the DC area and I left my job and moved to North Carolina, and I lived with a friend. I left my 9-to-5 job and I wanted to pursue something more creatively. And I knew that I needed something part-time to pay the bills. So I got a part-time job with Sotheby's, Charlie's real estate group, through a mutual friend. And at the time I thought I was gonna start a blog, but when I started there, I convinced them to let me stage a house for them, and it kind of took a life of its own.
Yeah, so after she staged the house, it was my business partner and I, Giles, at the time. She and I think, went out to dinner and drinks one night and hit it off, and then the rest is history, and here we are.
We did. Up until we had children, I was running my staging business just for the general public. I was working with a ton of real estate agents, staging homes in Charlotte. I feel like at the time, it was almost 10 years ago now, but at the time, there really weren't that many stagers in Charlotte, so it really took a life of its own, and there was definitely a hole to be filled. And once we had our kids, we kind of pulled back, and when we got married, we kind of merged businesses, and now we offer that exclusively to our clients, and I just work with Charlie to stage the houses. And I started the online shop, the Modish Company online shop, and we do pop-up shops too as a side project.
I think we work well together. I think we complement each other in the right ways, and then I think we help each other out, and I keep her on track because she's very creative, which is why she's so good at this. But no, I think we work really well together.
Yes, I think so too. And every single day is different. Someone asked me what a typical day looks for us, and every single day is different. It's not the same, We could have a totally clear week and then 2 houses popped up that I need to be staging, and we just kind of hit the ground running, and we've got it down to a science now. We can pretty much, bang out a house in a day or so and get, depending on what needs to be done. We'll help homeowners with small renovations, cosmetic changes, and sometimes full renovations to get their house ready for the market. And we kind of recommend everything, switching out lights, paint, all of those kind of things that need to be done to a house to keep it competitive. And of course, staging is super important because we know that it'll just make the transaction so much smoother, so much quicker. And the client is always more happy because they get more money. So when we first moved in, every inch of the house needed painted. The ceilings, the beadboard ceilings were so beautiful, but they were all cracked and yellowed. So we kind of restored all of those. I painted this French gray by Farrow & Ball, and I love this color. It's so muted and neutral, and it's a really good color to pick where it flows through spaces. And I complemented with this Schumacher grass cloth. It's kind of this taupey gray. I wanted texture, but not something too crazy and bold for the entry. I just wanted, since it connects so many spaces of the house, I just wanted it to feel like there was a really nice flow. And also with the crystal light that reflects all the light, I just wanted that to kind of be the pattern that shows on the wall and not have it compete with anything. I got this dresser at an auction in Virginia and I love it. There is no storage space in this house, no coat closet, no anything. So I love a chest. I love to store anything in a chest. We have all of our winter hats and scarves. I've got crafts for the kids at the bottom where they can get in and out of this easily. I have Charlie's grandmother's silver all over the house. She gave us, I never even met her, sadly, but I've heard so much about her. And she handed down so many pieces of silver. So any silver that you have, see around the house is Charlie's grandmother. I love a bowl for collecting keys and knickknacks and anything that comes into the front door to just pile it in there. Charlie's grandmother's crystal clock and her books too. She gave us lots of great books. Those are all, basically any vintage book or antique book that's in the house is hers. She loved beautiful, beautiful things, everything. She had the best taste. We have all of her crystal, all of her silver, a lot of her furniture pieces in the house. I'm so sad that I never got to meet her because I love her style. What else? I got this. I love this little painting, and I got this at auction. And, I fell in love with the composition of it so much that I kind of got into this bidding war. And then I didn't even look at the size. And I realized when it arrived, it was like this big. But I still love it. No regrets. No regrets. And this rug is a vintage rug. I just wanted something neutral, but that was also kind of had a little pattern on it. This is a really high traffic area. We have a big dog and kids coming in and out. And this is where we enter and exit the home. So it gets a lot of wear. This is from Etsy. I love getting my vintage rugs off of Etsy. I think it's an amazing resource. And I found this great crewel fabric on eBay. And that's another hack of mine. I love finding designer remnants and vintage remnants of fabric on eBay. It's perfect to do a pillow or a short little curtain, or, you could get a yard or two and make something beautiful out of it. So I made this pillow and then the two pillows on the sofa that match it also. My mom sewed everything. She sewed our costumes. She made beautiful custom draperies. She made, so she really taught me, and she bought me a sewing machine 2 years ago. So it's a skill that I wanted to hone in and do more of. So once I got the machine, I've been sewing everything. I just want to do it all myself and sew it all. So it's been fun to learn and be able to kind of change things as I want. So now let's go into the living room. This room, one of my favorite things about our house is it is very unassuming from the outside, but when you come inside, the ceilings are 11.5 feet high. This room originally started as a formal living room before we had children. And we kind of set up our office/den as a cozy TV room. And this was more formal, where we would sit down and play games and have drinks with friends. But when my son was born, his room was right above the office. So we kind of had to switch the way that we lived in the house. And this room came together super organically. I wanted it to be livable, and now that we have kids, we needed to have practical pieces for toy storage. They have a playroom, but a lot of things end here. I wanted it to be beautiful, but also functional. We had a glass coffee table in here, so that had to go. This coffee table I found antiquing, and it was like the perfect price, the perfect thing. They stand on it, they dance on it, they color on it. It really gets just love, and the more beat up it gets, the cooler it looks. So it's been great. My parents bought us this corner cabinet, and I have it kind of full of all of our family things. This treasury of great poems was Charlie's grandmother's, and I love seeing her notes about different poems and everything. And I love this picture of my grandmother. This is Charlie's grandmother's loving cup, her books, silver bells from both sides of the family that have been passed down. This Winston Churchill Toby mug was my grandmother's, and she always loved the quote, and my dad always says it, the never, never, never give up. And so I kind of thought this deserved its own little space in here with her. I found this really beautiful little oil painting. I just loved the colorway. Everything's very collected. This is full of trucks and toys. This sofa is IKEA. It really takes a beating and just is sturdy, still looks beautiful. Something that's very functional for our family, but there's no anxiety about things getting damaged in here. And the Rush House rug, I love this for this area just because it's durable, it's beautiful, and also with the dog and kids, if something spills, I loved the idea that you could just cut out the square where the stain was and kind of sew it back together. I made these out of the same remnant of the crewel fabric that is in the foyer. And I made these, and I was able to scour the internet and find one more remnant to make one more to send to the shop. And we actually have a pop-up shop coming up in 2 weeks, so that'll be there. I think the thing that I get asked about most in this room is these draperies. And when we first moved into the house, Charlie immediately went out of town, and I was feeling very creeped out, like I was in a fishbowl at night, new house, new town. And I found basically the only place that had 120-inch panels in stock was Overstock. And these things are so great. They're 100% French linen. They're lined. They're beautiful and thick. And then I also got the gauzy shears to be able to close kind of at that golden hour time where people can start seeing in, but you still want a little light coming in for privacy. So these have been awesome. I have them in our office, in our living room, and in our bedroom. And they've been so great. This piece grew up with at my family's house. This belonged to my mom and dad. Lots of memories with this table. Love it. It's a little wonky, but I don't mind that. And I've got some, framed pictures of the kids that I just recently did. I'm trying to have more family pictures around, a basket for more toys. And then this piece over here, I got specifically to be able to store toys and to hold our records. And we love playing with the records. And the fireplace is one of my favorite things that we've put into the house. We have 5 fireplaces in the house, but none of them are functioning. We kind of got quotes to rebuild it to be wood burning, but we realized gas was just the way to go. And so we, for Christmas a few years ago, had gas logs put in here and our dining room. And if the temperature dips below 70 degrees, I'm having the fire on at all times. So one of my favorite things, to keep it cozy and livable. And we spend pretty much all of our time in here. I think lighting is really important for ambiance. I love candles. I loved these sconces. I burn these candles all day, every day. I like to switch them out and switch the colors out seasonally. The library light adds a really nice warm layer. I think lamps are a great way to just keep warm light without it being too harsh. This light actually is really just full mood lighting. It is, this is Serena and Lily, and it just has one light bulb in it, but I love the texture and kind of the modern element to add to the room, because I'm pretty traditional eclectic, but I like to throw in something fun here and there to make it not feel too stale. And this gives a really warm, nice, moody light. This was Charlie's grandmother's chair. So his grandmother and his mom sat in this chair growing up. And she, about 2 years ago, was like, "Would you want this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think the kids would love it." And kids love a kid-sized small chair. they love to sit in this. Gus calls this his snack chair because he can eat his snacks in the living room if he sits in this chair. So they love that. This I found my best friend's sister-in-law also is a vintage dealer, and she found this amazing leather chair, and I just loved the lines of it. Eventually it will get restored. But for now with the kids, it's just like beat up and loved and has patina. I put this, it has a little tear in the seat, and I put this fur over thinking that it would keep the kids from picking at it, but every day they strip it off and they pick at that hole just a little bit more. So, but it looks beautiful. It's functional. I love the chunkiness of it. I love this back line, even though this is kind of a head smasher. If you lean your head back, it's caught a couple people off guard. And then this chair I love too. I've always loved this classic line, even as a child. My friend's mom had this chair, and I love the spindle kind of Jenny Lind look. And my parents bought this for me as a gift in my first big girl apartment when I lived alone. They bought it for me. So it's kind of traveled around. It'll need reupholstered at some point, but again, kids, family, dog, it's perfect for right now. So this Zara lamp is a recent addition to the living room. I had another lamp that I had turned into a lamp, but it sadly broke recently, so it's being fixed. But I love this lamp. It looks like cast iron. It's a really good price point. I love the big shade. It adds a little bit of a modern element with the cone shade. And it's just it makes an impact without being too loud or taking up too much space. It's easy to move around. The kids love the floor switch. There's a lot of on and off for them. But it's been a great lamp. So when we first moved in, it was really hard to make a decision on paint. Every inch of the house needed painted. So we painted all the trim, White Dove, all the walls, pearly white by Sherwin-Williams. White Dove is Benjamin Moore. And so this room kind of stayed that way. A lot of the other rooms have been transitioned and changed since then, but it just is really light and airy. It gives a little bit of a tint on the walls to feel a little bit of warmth, but still keeps it really neutral. I love that it's a neutral space. I love switching up pillows and everything seasonally. And if I just get a wild hair and want to try something new, a neutral base for everything is really nice to be able to do that at will. And then this is actually a decorative wallpaper hanging, and I got this at the Luckett's store. But I actually have seen it sold other places now. I think Anthropologie might carry it now too. But I love it. It was originally kind of a placeholder here to fill this big space and really draw attention to the height of the ceilings, to just play with the height of things in here because the curtains are hung so high. And but I really love the colors, and I love the chinoiserie style of it. So it's beautiful. Let's go into the dining room. So this dining room, I always knew that I wanted to do a mural in my dining room even before I had this house. I'm super inspired by Colonial Williamsburg, and I love a painted mural. I found this by A New Wall, and it's actually one wall's worth, but they were able to work with me to customize it, to connect it. I love that it gives the mural effect, but I like that it's a little abstract. I like that it's black and white. It kind of makes it feel like a newer take on it. We painted the mantle black for a little drama. This is Charlie's grandmother's loving cup. This stack of books here is actually my great-great-grandmother Molly, and it's who I was named after. And I just love having that connection to her. She has a couple of these books that are so beautiful, and they're actually like diary entries from friends, kind of like a yearbook. And it's just full of such beautiful notes to her from her friends that talk about how funny she is and write little poems and how much happiness she brought to them. And they're all dated, you know, this is 1884. And I love that our house was built in 1890, just so have things from around that era are just so amazing. And, you know, I just love having this extra connection to her and being able to read nice, lovely things that people wrote about her, even though I didn't know her. So this painting, I saw him when I was outsourcing for a house. I was staging this historic house, so I wanted a lot of antiques and cool pieces. And I found him, and he like was not in my budget at the time, but he was in this crazy booth that was full of art. So I was like, and I know portraits can be very creepy, but he just had a cool, sweet face, and I loved his clothing and the way he was put together, and he just had the friendly look. So I tucked him away in the booth and came back a few months later, and it was still where I had hidden him. So when I could afford him, I went back for him, and he actually stayed unframed for a couple years, and my grandmother was cleaning out some things for my grandparents, and my grandfather had this old frame, had an oil painting in this old frame that they were getting reframed from their house, and it happened to be the exact size of this, which is like a totally odd size. So it was just has this extra connection to my grandfather, and it just made us feel like it was meant to be. So I also love to incorporate the old family photos. I just love the era, and we just got this photo of Charlie's grandfather, and I had to have it framed. He is so handsome and just looks like he's a movie star in this outfit with his pilot's uniform on and his leather helmet and his scarf, and I just felt like, oh, this has got to be in a frame. And I also have, and our kids love flipping through these and kind of asking, who's this? Who's this? And this is my mom's mom, and this is my dad's mom, and my grandfather. And I just love seeing them young and thriving, and these are just some of my favorite photos. So we have some mixed in some of our family photos also, but it's something I love to do, putting them in a bowl, because I can always tell when someone has come by and flipped through, and because there's different ones at the top, and I just love that people are curious and look through them. I love a slipcover chair. I got these pillows actually made on Etsy. I love Etsy for everything. A lot of custom pillow designs and beautiful designer fabrics. This is a jasper fabric, Michael S. Smith, and I just love this Indian flower print. This is an old wallpaper table. I looked for a while for a piece that could go here, which we could clear off and have serving dishes when we have a dinner party or entertain. We've set up a bar here. We've set up desserts here for a party. But for life, I just love that we can just pile the plants. It's by a window. It gets good light for that. And this dining table is the best thing I have found sourcing and antiquing in my life. It was buried in an antique shop in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. And they just had it out, and they're now out of business. They don't even exist, because I've tried to go back and find more treasures, and they're like, it was like it manifested to find my dream table, and then they disappeared. But this is Thomas Moser, and all of these chairs. It is a beautiful furniture designer and furniture maker, and I love that it's the classic Windsor style, but kind of with a modern continuous twist. I feel like they blend kind of anywhere, and it was just perfect to have a round table in this space. I love a round table for conversation and for playing games and for sitting around the table. What I love about these chairs is like no nail was used. They're all handmade. The artist that made each chair is stamped on the bottom. So these were made sometime in the 80s, but they still make this. And I love kind of having that as a safety net, that if something did get damaged, we could have it restored or redone or buy a new one, or even extend the table and buy additional pieces to it. You know, we spend so much time in this room, actually. We do sit with our kids and eat dinner here. We don't have a more informal kitchen table because we have a galley kitchen. And a lot of people have asked us if we'd ever open up our kitchen to here. But I love having a formal dining room, and I think it really speaks to and honors kind of the original layout of the house. I just love being able to close the door to the kitchen and kind of have the mess behind us, and that we can enjoy a beautiful room without all the clutter. You know, we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at this table. We love it. This crystal chandelier, I don't know if it was original to the house, but it was here when we moved in. And it's one of the only ones that has not been replaced in the house. We pretty much replaced all of them, but I just loved how delicate it was and how it's a little beat up and a little dusty, but it's just beautiful. And I think it's like the perfect little accent in here. And this Japanese tansu chest I found antiquing, and we needed a little something. Again, a chest. We have no storage in this house, so I love keeping all my linens in here, my napkins. I love a cloth napkin. A meal tastes better with a cloth napkin. So I have all my table linens, napkins, extra silver. We have 2 sets of silver from Charlie's grandmother too that we use in the house. So it's really fun to set a beautiful table. Before we got married, we were searching for a home. We were living in a condo uptown. You know, I grew up in Northern Virginia, in the countryside of Northern Virginia. I grew up in a house that part of it was 1730 and the other part was 1820. And to me, an old home just feels like home. And, you know, Charlotte is a fairly new city, and older homes are kind of very difficult to come by. We weren't finding anything in our price range that seemed interesting, and we expanded our search. I'm not originally from Charlotte, so I was really kind of just curious, expanding to outside towns, and we found this house on the market around
Christmas time.
It was Christmas time, and I was like, come on, we just gotta go see this. I know it's, you know, 25 minutes outside of the city, but I just feel like it's a great deal, and we wanted to find something where we could put our mark on it, but I knew that it would be gradual because we didn't have a huge budget at the time to just do a full gut renovation. So I wanted it to be livable and cute with some cosmetic updates, and have projects available for us to put our mark on it and restore a home. And there were plenty, and there's still plenty. They're never ending.
No.
But it's fun to me, and it just feels like home. So I convinced Charlie to come see it. And he was looking around and was like, okay, I think we need to buy this house. And we just love Concord. It's got a beautiful historic district downtown. We've met the best people here, and we just love it. So let's go into the kitchen. So the kitchen, when we moved in, we used a lot of the bones, and we really just did cosmetic work. It wasn't a priority when we renovated, or as far as renovations go in the house. So we just kind of added some accents in here, did some cosmetic changes. So we kept the appliances, but we changed the hardware, and we added the wallpaper. It's magnolia ticking stripe wallpaper. I love it. It's so durable for a kitchen. We added the blinds, and we painted the cabinets and added the brass switch plates, and Charlie did the backsplash in here to just kind of elevate it and give it a little refresh and charm it up without doing a full renovation. And I love it. I know galley kitchens are a challenge for a lot of people, but it is so full of light. This is the brightest, lightest kitchen. It has 7 windows. And it's not too narrow. We still spend, I feel like no matter what the size of your kitchen, people are going to live in it. So we definitely live in this kitchen. It gets a lot of life. I'd say we spend the most time in here. but I love it. It has not been an issue for us. It's very long. We have enough storage space. We have enough counter space where it doesn't feel too cramped. I mean, there's definitely things that we would change eventually when we get to it. But it's been great. And, you know, this is where people ask us if we'd ever open this up to the dining room, but I kind of like the separation, and I think that that's a personal preference, but it's never been too big of an issue for us with the galley kitchen. So it had blinds in here, but they all had long tags and they were all hanging all over the place and kind of dirty and beat up. So we added these bamboo shades, and wherever I have shades in the house, I do bamboo. I just love that the texture they bring, the warmth, the natural kind of wood shade that they bring. And I liked keeping these with no lining so light could still shine through, but we could get a little privacy. We're close to this neighbor on this side, so it's nice to have a little privacy if we want it, but still let all that light in. This rug is another Etsy rug find. And we just spend so much time in here. The glass front cabinets keep me accountable to keeping our cabinets organized. I have all of my collection of white stoneware pieces in here. And I love the glass front cabinets. I just think that they're so beautiful in a kitchen. And then we have a lot of our crystal and our glassware in here that we pull from. A lot of pieces from Charlie's grandmother, her crystals, a lot of our wedding crystal. I love crystal. I know people think it's granny sometimes, but I think it's beautiful. And I feel like it really dresses up a table, and it just, you know, makes your glass of wine a little bit more fun when you're drinking out of a crystal glass. So this was a kind of an awkward nook when we first moved in. We started with a high chair here when my son was growing up. We had the fiddled fig tree before that in this corner that is now in the living room. It got too big for this space. It needed height. So we transferred it in there, and it kind of left this empty space. So when I found this marble bistro table, I loved the black marble, and it was the perfect size with these little chairs. So this is kind of the kids' table. They eat a lot of their snacks, a lot of their meals here. And I found these chairs are the perfect size for them, even though they love to pick at these rush seats. But it's been great, and it's a perfect little nook. I feel like it really creates a fun little moment here. And I also love that the kitchen looks out onto the backyard, so we can kind of see the kids playing and having fun, and the lights across the yard are pretty at night. And then this is another awkward nook here that we filled with a pine dresser that we found to set up kind of a coffee nook. Again, another chest to store things in, kitchen things, add a little extra. So when we first moved in, I didn't love that their half bath was off the kitchen. And it was huge. It was enormous. It had a window in it, and it had 2 big pantries in it, which I thought was so odd to be storing pantries or really anything into a half bath. So when we renovated our primary bathroom, we were able to take the space from this half bath to take for the shower, the walk-in shower that we added to the primary bathroom. And so we kind of did a mini makeover of this. We kept the floors that were here. They're totally neutral and totally livable. Charlie added this boxed molding in here. I made this sink skirt and added this to the existing vanity that was here. We changed this out for a polished nickel fixture, and I added an antique mirror. And I love this light. I found this in an antique store, and it was like a $20 light, and I'm obsessed with it. I know it's supposed to be on the ceiling, but I loved putting it as a wall sconce, and I love the stars on it, and I just think it's so cool. This was a perfect place to display kind of a collection of the black and white etchings and kind of photographs and silhouettes and everything that collect in here. I love this guy as a tiny little charcoal drawing that was antique. So I love how we were able to charm up this space a little bit.
For renovating, if you've ever worked on an old home before, nothing is level, nothing is plumb. So everything you think you have to do, or how long you think it's going to take 2, 3, 4 times longer, because everything goes this way or that way or the other way. So that's always been fun to deal with.
And you'll open things up and you'll be like, oh, that electrical isn't to code, or this is sketchy.
A lot of DIY and
yeah, a lot of, it's kind of, as you uncover these things, it's like a visual history of all the patch up jobs of like every owner that's lived here. So I think that that's just a constant challenge of doing historic renovations. And the house is 1890. It's a folk Victorian. So it's got a little bit of those details outside with the gingerbread details, but it's not totally Queen Anne Victorian where it's over the top. It's more farmy and cottagey. And, I definitely wanted to find some pieces that were, around the time period of the house. But it's really come together super organically. We have a very collected style, and it's always changing. Nothing's nailed down. Things move around. If we find the perfect piece for here or another piece for here, Charlie's happy to move things around for me. So I have ideas and he makes them come to life. So this room, it is more modern, and it really came together organically. It's one of the first rooms I put together because I feel like you should create your space that's a sanctuary for you to be able to go to bed and rise and have it together. So I had a lot of modern pieces, but it is definitely more modern. This is a mid-century dresser that I got, was the first vintage piece that I bought ever. Charlie loves hanging this mirror. We've done it 3 times.
It weighs 5,000 pounds. It's the heaviest mirror ever.
We had it on a wire at first, and we were laying in bed one night and we heard this and it like fell 6 inches, and we were like, yeah. So we recently hung it again, and it seems to be more sturdy. But I love this. It's so 80s, and I feel like it doesn't go with anything in our house, but it just kind of works. I love the kind of patina on the frame. I love the gold kind of weaved through. It weighs 1,000,000 pounds. So I originally had got it for staging, but some pieces when you use for staging, you just know that they're not for staging. If you're terrified of it ripping a wall out or it's too heavy to move, those things get sold or come to our house.
The story behind this piece is Molly and I went antiquing at a local antique mall up the street, and one day she pointed out, she's like, this is beautiful. And then I took a mental note to that. And then about a month later, I went back, bought it for her, and then gave it to her as a gift. So that was probably the happiest I've seen her in a while. So
I think it was a Valentine's Day gift. Yes, I was heavily hinting. This would be perfect.
Like, look at this. Look at the drawers.
For my jewelry and my sunglasses. So the fireplace, I love having a fireplace in the bedroom. One day I'd love to add some gas logs to this, but we were not able to until recently because they had, what was running through here?
Yeah, we had a water heater that was the gas exhaust pipe going through the chimney. One of the many things in the house which would not be code because you have gas fumes going into your bedroom. So we removed that, put in a tankless water heater. So we could definitely add one now that that's gone.
It's on the list of things. I feel like dream would be to have the fireplace burning. The tile was here. It's not original to the house, but it was in the house when we bought it. And this is also the same tile in the office. It's totally fine for now. I'll probably switch it one day when I find the perfect tile. But I love having our wedding photos in here. I'm totally obsessed with our wedding photographer, Kate Headley. I loved every single photo she gave us, so I love having those framed around the house. I didn't want it to be the Charlie and Molly wedding house, but so I kept them in our bedroom, but I just love them. This is another silver piece of Charlie's grandmother, her books here, and they all have her name marked in them, which I love. And then this little painting I got off of eBay. And this chair I found at the Luckett Spring Market. I just love rattan. You'll see rattan and wicker weaved all throughout the house. I love the texture it brings. I loved the lines of this chair and kind of the wonky shape. I just thought it was really fun in here. These photos One of my staging hacks is to cut up art books and have them framed. It's one of my favorite things to do. This book, I found this book called Famous Drawings of Women, and I just loved how they looked in here. I loved how it drew your eye up to how tall the ceilings are. And so I actually have probably like 40 of these framed that I use and pepper out through the houses that we stage. So one day I kind of picture them all being in the same place. But that's like, I love these drawings. I love the composition. I love that they're all women, and Charlie's secure enough to be flanked by women when he's,
Yeah.
when he's sleeping.
I prefer that.
We changed the light fixture. Charlie threw his neck out putting that up.
One of many times.
He
One of my
loves-
least favorite thing to do is change light fixtures, and I've probably done 50 to 60 at least.
He loves.
Working above your head is not ideal.
He loves that. And so recently we had, and we'll talk about this later, but we had to renovate our porch, and we actually had to do a full rebuild of it. And so when we did that, one of the things, again, I've talked about closet space in an old home. Right now, we only have these 2 closets, and I fill them. So Charlie keeps his clothes in a separate bedroom, which is not ideal.
Sacrifices you make to
But
live in an old
I
home.
think a lot of people in an old house can relate and probably do the same thing. One of my things that's coming up that we're doing, I'm super excited about, is this door originally went out to the wraparound porch, but we took a good portion of it and have enclosed it. We have not started on the closet yet, but that is next on the list. So I'm
It's spring. So.
super duper excited to have a dreamy closet and to have us both in the same bedroom again. It would be nice.
Yeah.
But for now, that's there. We'll probably switch this out for a French door to keep. We have put windows in there to allow light through, so we'll still get light. A bed in front of the window isn't an ideal scenario, but we really made it work. Luckily, the windows are so tall in here that we still get a lot of decent natural light. But it's kind of the only spot in the bedroom where you can put a bed. And people love to point out, I have never thought anything like of this, but people love to point out they can't believe that we sleep in a queen size bed.
That's true. We cuddle.
We cuddle. We love each other. So we have had no issue with the queen size bed, but also like we don't have space for it. If we had a king size bed, we would have no nightstands, and we just need function over distance. I would say I am heavily inspired by the area that I grew up in. I grew up in Waterford, Virginia. And Loudoun County is still to this day one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been in the United States. It just kind of looks like England, rolling hills, countryside. It has a very classic Virginian style. I grew up in an old home, and my parents were very into collecting antiques and still are to this day, and have wonderful tastes and did a beautiful renovation on their home as well. So I kind of grew up just immersed in that. And so I pull a lot of inspiration from Virginia, and I love design books. They're all over the house. I think sometimes on Instagram it can get a little saturated in one style because you're just being fed the same thing all the time. So I really love looking to books and older books, and I love going on house tours in Colonial Williamsburg and anywhere where I can get into an old house and just like soak up inspiration. I do that, and I love that.
I think where I come in would be, if we go antiquing, on a Saturday, we may find a piece that, would be perfect, but something's broken on it, or we repurpose a dresser into a sink. So that's where I come in, and taking the pieces and bringing them to life.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it works because Charlie has an opinion sometimes.
Only when I don't like it.
Yes. So if he has an opinion, he really gives me creative freedom, which I love and cherish about our relationship. But so he really lets me do my thing without too much pushback. And when he does push back, I know, okay, wait, he does not like this. So when he has an opinion, I like to honor that and be like, okay, Charlie never rarely speaks up. Not never,
Same.
but rarely speaks up. So I know to make adjustments if he does speak up. I think when we're doing renovations, I can be a little bit, are you gonna do this? Are you gonna do this? And he's kind of like, yes, I'm gonna do that.
It's all in my head.
Yeah, so, there's a little bit of that, but he tolerates me. So before we head upstairs to see the kids' room, I just wanted to pop into the office and show you. This is what originally started as our TV den. We painted it green. It's lived many lives. But we decided, when COVID hit, we wanted a proper office. So this is very utilitarian. We work in here. I work out in here. We have the Peloton over here. I've got my grandmother's sofa that I reupholstered in this beautiful cravat velvet. This was my sister-in-law's secretary piece that is perfect for our bar. I added some Schumacher fabric on the back side of it to add a little pop. We've got my collection of Toby mugs in here. From my grandmother collected Toby mugs and my father collected Toby mugs, and they have trickled down. So now our family collects Toby mugs. So we have a lot of people think they're creepy, but I love the Royal Dalton, and we even have Harry here. So some of the Toby mugs are from my parents. Some of them just connect to us. Where I grew up in Virginia is big hunt country. And so I love the fox hunter. Charlie is an avid golfer. So we have the golfer, and he loves racing. So we also have the race car driver. And then a lot of these were in my home. I always loved this one as a child with his little look. So we have that. And then after we got Harry, we found this old English sheepdog one. So we had to have it. This is Farrow and Ball downpipe in this room. And it really sucks up light, but I love the moodiness of it. I love how it works with these navy blues. I actually reupholstered these chairs and refinished them myself in this antique overshot quilt, which I just love. It reminds me of my childhood and colonial Williamsburg. I'm just very drawn to the pattern and the texture. And then this beautiful hand-painted Asian desk is from South End Exchange in Charlotte. So we can go check out the kids' rooms upstairs now. So we started this renovation. This upstairs was one big open loft space. It had a beautiful built-in bookcase that we kept. But the first thing was the stairs. They're kind of like treacherous attic stairs.
Very tall.
You opened up the ceiling because someone tall could not walk up the stairs and have clearance. So we added this great plaid carpet for safety, and also I thought it was cute, but for the kids coming up and down, this was definitely a must. And then we added the grass cloth wallpaper. And so here we are in the playroom. This was one big open loft space. It had a short pony wall, which was like a death trap for children. When we had one baby, it was fine. It was one open space, and then these were attic spaces. So the first thing I had Charlie do before we did anything else was raise the stairwell up. Before we even added the bedrooms, you did that.
Yeah, because it was not ideal. You just fall over that, and it's about a 20-foot fall.
Yeah. So, but we added the windows to add some natural light in it, kind of give that pubby feel. But when it was time, when we had our second baby, the layout of the house is kind of like we'd have to have one upstairs, one downstairs. So we just really wanted to make this work for us. And so we were able to get creative and kind of work on taking some of the attic space here. The pictures in the built-in, those are Mary McGuire. I love those. Charlie made that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a day bed that we took a twin headboard, and then basically I just found two of the runs, added some plywood, re-supported it all, and then
Yeah.
now you have a day bed.
Yeah, so he made two of the twin beds into the day bed, and actually it's a 3/4 bed, so we had to layer up the pillows on the back to make it fit, but it's perfect. It's very utilitarian, and when Gus was little, he slept in that little nook, so it was nice to have the day bed here. My mom made the window treatments and the window seats. She did those for us. And this was at my parents' house, this rug. I recovered this antique little ram rocker for the kids. But so this used to be a little closet and then all attic space. So we're going to go into my daughter's bedroom, and this is what we added when we did the renovation.
Yeah, so none of this was here. This was all just complete attic space.
Yeah.
That we basically turned into 2 bedrooms. This one that we'll go into next. I walked in one time when she was pregnant with Winnie. I walked in there, looked around, I was like, I think we can fit a bedroom in here. And then she came up, kind of looked at me funny, and then went, I think we can.
Yeah.
So we turned these 2 rooms into our kids' bedrooms.
Yeah, and we added the windows to the kind of these peak dormer areas. So we added the windows for natural light and took that kind of extra 6 feet off of the room for a little extra space. But it turned out darling. Charlie did the built-in. We did have to get creative in here with mini splits as far as the air. But we've kind of tried to hide them, and I think eventually we'll do a full AC system, but they're perfect for right now. I loved doing this Schumacher fabric for Winnie and the Schumacher wallpaper, and I just think it's so sweet. I feel like children are such maximalists, so I just loved adding layers and patterns and texture and all the things. I feel like you can't ever go too far with the kids' room, so it just makes it all more fun. Then we're going to go into Gus's room. We originally put in this kind of jib door to connect the 2 rooms, to have a large enough door to bring furniture in and out, because the entry door to Gus's room is very narrow and small with what was allowed. But Gus's room is one of my favorite rooms in the house. I feel like this is like such a little boy's dream. It feels like a tree house. These are the original beams.
And this is something that Molly insisted that we leave exposed. And this is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life. Not only are the beams going left, right, they're also this way as well. So cutting these pieces and keeping the line straight across. We went through some extra wood to make it happen, but it finally came out, and I think it looks great.
He kept trying to convince me to do drywall. I was like, no.
A lot easier, but it turned out great.
But again, bringing that beadboard throughout the house. I feel like the peaks are low, but because the ceilings that transition up here are so high that it really still feels open and big. The window seat, we had to get creative to hide AC ducts that were in here. So this wasn't originally part of the plan, but it was such a happy thing that happened. My mom made the window seat. You did the beadboard.
Yeah, did all the beadboard, the window, all the trim in here as well. And then, it's just cute with this little bench seat. You'll see, you come up here in the morning and you see that Gus has pulled back his blinds to see if the sun has come up. So that way he knows he can come downstairs.
Yeah, and the soldier prints, the soldier theme kind of happened organically. I had been collecting soldier prints before I even had children, and when we did this room, it was like, oh my gosh, perfect spot for those. So just love them. It's kind of a mix of antique, and then we have a Mary Maguire one. Worked with Martha and Ash on both of the blinds, the custom blinds for their rooms, visual comfort, lighting. But yeah, so this is, and we were even able to get in a little closet right here to, get creative with that and check all the boxes. So we are in our downstairs entry right now. And I love this space. It's very utilitarian, comes in and off of the backyard. And this is our entire guest level for where we have a lot of out-of-town family that comes to visit us. So they live down here, and it's one of my favorite spaces. I love this Sandberg wallpaper, and the Hunt prints remind me of Virginia and take me back, and a church pew from where I grew up. Lots of mixed textiles, some jasper fabric, but this is kind of where the guests stay. This is one of our guest rooms. I love the exposed brick in here. It's the original brick from 1890. We have Schumacher wallpaper. Colfax and Fowler pillows that I made for the bed. And the fireplace is unfinished, but I hope to find the perfect tile eventually. When I find it, I'll know. And over here we have our second guest room. This holds some family pieces. This was my parents' bed when they were first married. This is beautiful Schumacher 4 Waverly drapes. Bucket stand. Was in my childhood home, in my grandmother's jewelry box, and my great-great-grandmother Molly's trunk. This made it through the Johnstown flood and is over 130 years old. So this is a very special piece to me, and because it's my namesake, it's even more special. This dresser is Charlie's grandmother's. We have a few of these pieces throughout the house. This bedspread I got at auction. It's a beautiful antique crewel fabric. I assumed it would be in poor shape, so I wanted to get some pillows out of it, but it was in perfect condition, so we kept it as the bedspread in here, and I just love it.
I mean, I think for me, what home really means to me is, you know, you're gone during the day, working, showing property, doing whatever you're doing, and then it's just hectic. But when you finally come back into your house, you know, it's just a place of peace, calm, love. I mean, now that we have 2 kids, it's a little more hectic, but it's still a place, you know, you just sit back and relax and enjoy.
All right, I know what home means to me is, I think a home should tell the story of who lives there. I love using collected pieces. I love the family pieces. I love incorporating heirlooms from grandmothers and great-grandmothers and things that we've collected on trips or that give a good memory. And, you know, I love decorating with memories. It just makes you feel good, and it makes home a place that you feel love and can reflect on your life and feel comfortable and build more memories together. Well, Homeworthy, thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure having you.
See you next time.
Bye.
Hello, Homeworthy. My name is Ellen, and welcome to the historic Watson House in downtown Franklin, Tennessee. Come on in, I want to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. If you're looking to make your own space more homeworthy, we've teamed up with Chairish, our go-to online destination for chic, one-of-a-kind finds, sourced from the world's most wonderful vendors.
Mercury drops are from an artist I found on Chairish.
Whether we're after a bold statement piece or the perfect finishing touch, Chairish has extraordinary items that leave a lasting impression.
This table I bought on Cherished from Berlin, and it has a little bit of it's a tray, and it is mid-century, and it's one of my favorite pieces.
It's where we find iconic looks to set homes apart.
I think many dealers would agree that Chairish is the absolute best.
So to support Homeworthy and discover amazing items from Chairish, scan the QR code or click on the link below to start shopping.
Hello, my name is Ellen Smith, and I live in the Watson House in historic downtown Franklin. The Watson House was built in 1881 by Hugh Cathcart Thompson, the architect, and it was built in the Second Empire style in downtown Franklin, Tennessee, which is about 30 minutes out of Nashville. It's a beautiful Victorian home with tall ceilings and huge pocket doors and all of the neat features that you'd find in historic homes, like 7 fireplaces and transoms over the doors. Just a beautiful old Victorian home. Years ago, I lived over on a street in downtown Franklin called Fair Street, which I loved. I had the best neighbors, we had the best time. And I went to O'Moore School of Design in downtown Franklin, and I would pass by this house all of the time, and I thought, this house looks like a dollhouse. Like, I would die to see inside and see, you know, what is beyond those doors. And it ended up, the house came on the market years ago, and I just happened to be looking at a Realtrax while I was sitting at my son's appointment, and came and looked at the house, and that was history. A year after I bought the house, they did an inspection, because they come every year, twice a year, to inspect the interior and exterior of the house. And they found out that the front porch and balcony were falling off, which became a major project. They had to work with the Historical Foundation in Franklin and take apart all the historical architectural features, label them, and then rebuild this massive porch and and balcony. I am this home's personal assistant, and that is the truth. It's a team of us. It's Ridley Wills. They take care of the home, and then my landscapers, they take care of the exterior, and she's just shining, and I think it's just a joint effort, but definitely I'm her personal assistant. Welcome to the entry of the historic Watson House. One of the things I love about the entry is this beautiful wall technique that they have, which is original to this home. And it is so delicate and intricate that you can't just paint over it because you will lose that design. Another fun thing is my family has been in the Middle Tennessee area for years and years and years. And this is a picture of Glen Levin, which is our family home, which is now where the Land Trust for Tennessee is located. And here, right here, is my dad and then my uncle. So this secretary is circa 1850s, and I actually bought this from Harpeth Gallery, which was a great store that was open for years and years and years in Nashville, that closed not too long ago, but it's always been one of my favorite pieces in the house. Follow me, let's head into the front parlor. Welcome to the parlor. This is one of my favorite rooms in the house. It's a great room to sit in if you want to people watch because we get lots of traffic walking up and down 3rd Avenue in Franklin. This right here is a pastel that was done by Alexander Wetmore of my son Overton when he was 18 months old. It's one of my special things that I have. So this mantle we have here is faux bois to make it look like it's marble. And this is one of 7 fireplaces in the home. And then above it is a mirror that belonged to my grandmother that I'm so happy that I have now. So as you go through my home, you will see a lot of pictures or paintings of the Low Country in South Carolina. My children have grown up going down to Bluffton, South Carolina, where we just put all of our worries behind and can relax and enjoy our time as a family. And these paintings that I have remind me of that happy place. So this Victorian writing desk is a ladies' Victorian desk I got when Bradford's in Nashville was open, and that was always our favorite place to shop for antiques. But it's this beautiful old desk with little drawers, and one of my favorite things about it is that on the side, which is hard to see, there is a little secret compartment, which I don't know what they hid in there, but there's nothing in there now, but it's so much fun. So moving from the parlor into the dining room, you will see these beautiful pocket doors, which when I bought the home, they had been stuck in the wall for years. And what's so interesting about these doors is that we were looking and we thought, what kind of exotic wood is this on the door? And it turns out that all of the inset panels of the doors in this house are all faux bois. They're made to look like wood, because if you could tell, the graining stops right here. So these were fingerprints that they did back in the Victorian day. So every single door in this home has that on the insets of the door panels. But these are just grand doors, and I'm so glad that we got them working. It was so much fun the day that they got them out of the walls to see what they look like. I was inspired by my grandmother. She always had the most exquisite taste, and her homes were always beautiful, well taken care of, beautiful colors. She loved her china, which now I have and I love. And just ever since I was a little girl, my dad used to laugh at me. He would come in my room and say, I would like to walk into your room and find all the furniture in the same place that it was the day before. I maintained my love for design and interiors and went on to a more school of design. And then after that, just spent time renovating houses and decorating, and it is the joy of my life. So my grandmother was also a very big entertainer. She had bridge parties. The International Bridge Club would come to her house, and she was always, I was always there helping her get set up with all these different china patterns that she had, and just always so elegant, just really breathtaking table design, which I've always loved. And then as I got older and started to acquire my own things, it just kind of became one of those things, like one day I'll be looking at something and I'll think, oh my gosh, I want to do a tablescape around that. And then the next thing you know, I'm running to the china closet and pulling out different plates that I think might work, and glasses, and just funny little other things that kind of bring a table together. But it's kind of an art. Welcome to the dining room of the historic Watson House. This room was actually a twin parlor and was turned into the dining room when they turned the original dining room into the kitchen. So this room would have originally been, both these, the front parlor and the dining room would have originally been carpeted. And as you can tell, when you look around the edges of the room, you can see where all the carpet nails were located. So this was actually probably a ladies' parlor back in the 1800s. So over here is my son Laird, who just turned 16 this year. This was also done by Alexandra Wetmore when Laird was 18 months. So these are the two most precious things in my house that if anything ever happened, I'd be running to save them, to take them with me. Back when the baby days, the innocent days of life. So this painting actually belonged to my parents, and it was a gift to them by my grandmother, and I'm lucky enough to have it now. And then the sconces on either side were also my grandmother's that probably came out of Glenlevin, the house built in the 1850s. So they're very well taken care of, and we try not to burn them too often because we're afraid of burning them and the house down. So this table is set with, once again, my grandmother's, and this is actually probably my great-grandmother's china. I think this pattern, which is Schumann Dresdner art, and it's around circa 1900, but I've got so many different placings. Back then they had so many different courses, so this china is really special to have, and we take great care of it, but I love it for its color and the gold and the embossment on it. It's just a beautiful piece of china. So this silver service was also my great-grandparents' silver service that my parents then had, and now I have, and it's just a lovely old silver service. And then these, believe it or not, these little baby ferns, they were itty bitty when I got them, and I actually ordered them off Amazon and then put them in these silver goblets, and they have thrived. Welcome to our library. Also used as a game room. And right now we have it set up for Mahjong, which is one of my favorite games to play, and I know it is sweeping the nation. I started playing with a group of friends here in Franklin, and we started years and years ago, and so all of these sets are just like pieces of art. That one's by the Mahjong line, and I absolutely love it. It's so whimsical. So when we moved into this house, this room was actually set up as our children's playroom, and there were old bookcases in here that were half falling down. Actually, the entire house was painted in dark brown fabric. Just everything was so dark. And so when it came time to redo this room, Ridley sat down and said to me, you know, why don't we switch and move your playroom into the room over here with the doors closed? And then let's work on this and turn this into kind of a library office. And so they came in and built these beautiful bookshelves, which, you know, are filled with my coffee table books and kids' books and kids' pottery that they made in school. And this room has just become a great room for us to hang out in, play games, and relax. And if I could get my children to play the piano, that'd be even better. So this is our baby grand piano, and one of my favorite things is when I'm having a party to have somebody come and play the piano, whether it's at Christmas time or it's spring. It's just always so lovely to have piano music going. And then here we have another one of our faux painted fireplaces, which matches the one across the way. And then also more beautiful florals done by Garden Delights. And then these vases are my favorite from 7:30. They are just, it's also whimsical and fun. So this is a portrait of my grandfather, Henry Laird Smith. And I love this portrait too because he reminds me so much of my father. They had very similar eyes. So it's just a special piece to have. He was one of the investors in Equitable Securities, which when he passed away in 1968, Equitable was the second largest brokerage house in the United States of America. And it ended up being bought by American Express. This guy up here is actually a flask. My older son is obsessed with fishing, so I found this and just thought, how fun is this? Maybe when he's older, over 21, I will give it to him and he can actually use it as a flask. But my boys spend a lot of time fishing, whether it's fly fishing or deep sea fishing. It just, our life revolves around fishing, any trip we go on, which I absolutely love, and I never thought in a million years I would, but I do. My boys were little. Mandy Johnson actually started taking pictures of my children. Here's my oldest son, and he'll kill me, as a baby. And so she did these beautiful books. And so now I have all of these of Overton and Laird, and they are just so enjoyable just to see my precious baby boys. So now we're gonna leave and head into the den. Well, on the way, I'm gonna show you the bar that's located there. So when I bought this house, Ridley and I were in here talking, and this window used to go all the way down to the floor. And my children were running and jumping through it. Our dog was running and jumping through it, and all we could think was, here comes a hospital visit. Somebody's gonna fall and break their arm, they're gonna knock teeth out of their head, like something's gonna go wrong. with having this window here in the house. So Ridley came up with the idea of putting in a bar. And so this is our bar, and believe it or not, it has got ample storage for glasses. We have a built-in ice maker here. And then over here, we have a fridge for wine, and of course the different beverages the children drink. But it has just been a great addition to have this, very useful. Because as you know, when you have children, family, you never have enough drink space. Like every space is filled. So you'll notice here too, this was the original exterior of the home. This was a wraparound porch, and you can actually see when you look up where the porch attached to the house. But when the Klatts bought this house back in the 1990s from the original owners, they had an office which they added on to the back. So they did this addition, adding where the bar is now and then the den. So follow me into the den. So in this den, this is our hangout space. This is where my older son and I fight for the place on the sofa right there, which you can tell from the cushions, like that's where we want to sit. But I love this den because I love the original brick that we have on the walls. And then I think they did a really good job of matching this brick to make it look like it was two historic buildings combined. The artwork in the house is, once again, you'll see a lot of low country pieces, which, as I said, they take me back to my happy place. It's a great place to sit and have dinner in here and just sit and talk. It's really the room that most people, when they come over to our house, where you'll find us is in here. We are obsessed with our dog. My children grew up, our first lab was a black lab named Buka, and she passed away years ago, and then we got our lab that we have now, Ford. And our love for labs is beyond. It's almost ridiculous. Our dog travels with us everywhere. There is never a moment where he's really not with us. So you will find around our house lots of labs. And this is a lab lamp that I got years ago, and I just love it. So this piece of art is one of my favorites. And my friend Meg Diller did that. She's just an amazing, very, very talented artist. And I love having this here. And then it's fun with the frame TVs to go in and kind of pick pictures that complement our work with it. Ever changing on this TV set. So a lot of the artwork in my home came from Bluffton, South Carolina. And this is a painting by Murray Cease of the Bluffton oyster fishermen. And if you've ever been to that area, you know how famous these men are. And this is the Angel Oak in Charleston, South Carolina. And this is Elise Nichols, who does beautiful artwork. And she did this one of kind of a low country scene with the docks, which of course is my dream, to have a house with a dock to go sit on. But these are just fun pieces of art, and that was my grandmother's that she bought when she was in Sea Island, Georgia, another place our family went to a lot. This secretary, or this desk, was given to me by my cousin after her mother passed away, and this is now stocked with, are you ready? All of my napkins that I use for my table setting. Every single drawer is filled with napkins. So this is a circa 1850s wine tasting table. And this is another piece of furniture that I got from Bradford's before it closed. And then another thing that I love, which you'll see in the dining room and also in here, are these chairs with the cane seats. I've always just been a fool for caning, and our family always had cane chairs, and these were just actually redone, and I'm so pleased to have them back, and I think they look beautiful in here. My favorite space in the house is the kitchen because I love cooking, and the kitchen actually was the original dining room in the house. But now it is our kitchen, and I just love being able to cook in there, and it's just fun too, because one night I was sitting working on the computer and I just happened to look at one of the walls, and I thought that looks like there used to be a window there. You could see the outline of an old Victorian window, and sure enough I pulled out the blueprints of the original house and there was a window there. So this house is always exposing little clues to its history. The kitchen of this house was the original dining room, and it was turned into a kitchen, I think probably in the late 1980s. And when we bought the house, the ceiling looked like a piece of cheese. There were so many of these can lights, and so believe it or not, they're now half the amount of can lights that they had originally. The Wills Company had to come in, which meant that the ceiling had to be taken out. And what was really neat is it exposed the major beams supporting the structure that are in the ceiling. That was done, and then the original owner of the house, one of the original owners' descendants, told me that this room used to have the most ornate moldings, and I guess over time they've crumbled and fallen away, as I'm sure they have in every room of this house, but it's just kind of neat to think about what it might have looked like in the past. And from what I can understand, where the kitchen window is now, there were French doors that led out onto a terrace. But right now, I mean, it is our kitchen, and I think it is beautiful with all the sunlight flowing in. I love that, you know, I've got my range, which of course I love cooking, and so this is my baby. I think the last 3 houses I've lived in, I've had a wolf range, like we're attached at the hip. It's just been a great space for my children. Every Christmas we're in here, we're baking Christmas cookies and decorating and hanging out in here. This is just really, like they say, the kitchen is the heart of our home. The kitchen originally, when I bought the house, we kept some of the cabinets here, and then like the refrigerator then was freestanding, and so they built in this wall of cabinets over here, and we redid the countertops and painted the island, you know, redid the marble over here, just that really lightened the place up, redid the kitchen sink. I mean, just really gave it the facelift that it really needed, and especially to function for a family with young boys and, you know, dogs strolling through here and me spilling and making messes everywhere. It's just a nice clean space to work in. So the gallery in Bluffton, South Carolina, that I love going to, this is, so once again, I've got paintings by Murray Cease, and I love these. And of course, I've got this one here of the chef holding up his fish. And the funny thing is, I don't eat seafood, which brings us to Murray Cease's friend, Margaret Crawford's paintings of oysters, which these are some of my favorite paintings I have in the house. They are just so happy and so energetic, and something that when I'm in the kitchen cooking, it just kind of takes away the seriousness of it and reminds you that this is like a playful place to be in. This is another original piece of art by Evelyn Henson, and I just love the colors in it, the softness of it, the beauty of the water floating by. This is the pantry for the kitchen, which when I moved in, there was just a small little banquette that was here. So the Wills Company came in and built this beautiful, very useful amount of storage for us. So we house all of our food and pantry items in here. So it gives us more cabinet space in the kitchen, more plates for me to play with. Let's follow into the china room where you will see my sickness. This was this really awkward storage space. We just had really deep shelves in the back of the closet, which you'll see in a second. The Wills Company came in and they took out all of that and they turned this space into something that feels like probably is original to the home. They did this beautiful detail down here with woodwork. And my friend Brina, who owns One Organized Girl, she came in and completely redid the shelving, organized it all, and now has these beautiful displays of all my china, which makes it so easy to come in and to be able to pull from my different place settings. So here is more of the china that I was talking about that's on the dining room table. I've got all the different sizes and course settings. And then this is really beautiful. This is another gift from my cousin. These are hand-painted Tiffany plates of different kind of low country scenes, which are just fantastic. Here's another favorite. This is a Mataheta. Also housed in here, which is not polished yet, are a lot of pieces of silver. Like here is an unpolished butter dish. So my mother gave me when my children were born for my son Laird. He had a little stuffed duck that we called Duckworth. So he's got this piece of Heron china and bowl and cup for down the road whenever he has children. And then this is my son Overton's, and he got the train pattern from Heron. So a big thing in the South is pimento cheese. So we always have this out to have with crackers and cheese. This table setting, I've got to show you these plates. So these plates were done by Helenita Home, and they're some of my favorites because I love the bright color of them, the yellow. They're just so cheery, so happy. And Garden Delights did beautiful floral arrangements to go along with this table setting. That it's just, you know, you just want to sit down, have a glass of wine, some pimento cheese, and relax and talk. Also, the linens out here are from Pomegranate, and they just are, I love Pomegranate. They are the nicest people out of Lexington, Kentucky, and they just do these beautiful linens. So this is our outdoor hangout area. We actually got a beautiful fireplace that was built by the Wills Company. They actually extended the patio, this beautiful curved out patio that leads into the fireplace. Originally, there was a huge pergola that took up pretty much the entire patio, and unfortunately the pergola was in bad condition and had to be taken down. So this is what the Wills Company came up with. And then Buck Malone, who owns the Wildwood Group, he has done all the landscaping here on the property, and they came in and just enhanced what Ridley had already done, just enhanced it with beautiful landscaping, planters, beautiful flowers. It is just such a beautiful place to be able to hang out in and watch TV. We have an outdoor TV, which is amazing at this day and age that you can have something that can stay outside year round and it still works. This is the side entrance to the Watson house. Right behind me is our screened-in porch where we love to sit and listen to the fountain here. And once again, Buck Malone came in with the Wildwood group and completely recreated this courtyard area. And the Wills Company, another pergola that was on the property, was here, and it ran all the way down to the driveway. And it unfortunately also had not weathered well over time and had to be removed. So the Wills Company came in and built this pergola, this grand pergola that is just a beautiful place to sit, have a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, but just also a really pretty entrance to this historic home. In the spring, this is covered, and you can start to see some of the purple, the wisteria that's coming through, but by the end of summer, it is just a carpet of greenery. It is absolutely spectacular. My favorite time of year in this home is spring, when everything starts to bloom. That was one of the things that we did when I bought this house, was the entire landscaping was redone. It was just old and needed to be replaced. And one of the things that I wanted was to be able to have flowers, be able to go out and cut flowers. So when spring rolls around and the peonies start blooming, and you know, it's just a joy to go out and be able to bring some of that inside too. But so spring is really probably my favorite. The powder room has got this beautiful print by Lily Wallace, and she is a textile designer out of Savannah, Georgia. And this wallpaper gets so many compliments. It's the perfect, when I was looking for wallpaper in this bathroom, I kind of wanted to have that small town cottage feel with spring, summer notes to it. And this is the perfect paper for this space. The other thing I love is that this room was also an exterior room. So in this bathroom, you've got the original brick wall. And over here is the Watson House monogram that I had done by Emily McCarthy, also out of Savannah, Georgia. She took in some of the details of the house, it being Second Empire, the date it was built, and made this beautiful monogram for us. And we have that on doormats, towels, stationery. It was one of my favorite purchases that I made, was having that monogram done. Let's leave the downstairs and head on up to the master bedroom upstairs, which is a tall climb on the Victorian staircase. Welcome to the master bedroom. Above the bed is a painting by my childhood friend Langford Barksdale, and this painting was done in Charleston, South Carolina, and I believe it's one of the houses along the Battery. The bed actually looks historic, but it is not. It is actually a newer bed that I got when I was pregnant with my first son. And it is my favorite place, and if I could pack it up and take it with me everywhere I went, I would do so. I love this bed. So this chest of drawers came out of Glenlevin, and Glenlevin once again was our family home. And the bed that's in my son's room, Overton, is actually the matching bed that goes with this. But I am so thankful to have this. Nobody else in the family wanted it because it's such a huge piece of furniture, but given that I'm in a Victorian house with 13-foot high ceilings, this just fits perfectly. In the bedroom upstairs, we have a fireplace, and with the summer door still attached, which luckily most of the rooms still have all the summer doors on the Victorian fireplaces, but I love the little face there. I think it's Marie Anthony, I'm not sure, but it's another faux painted to look like marble. I was lucky when I bought the house, that the people who lived here before, they thought this was going to be their forever home, and they put in the most beautiful drapes throughout the home, and I'm so thankful to have them still and take good care of them. And these are great too. They're blackout, and so at nighttime, when all the city lights turn on, I can close the curtains and be in a nice dark room. This is the sitting area. When you come to the top of the stairs of our home, there's this nice big space, and this space has been great, especially when the kids were little. Before bedtime, they'd come up here and kind of sit down, read a book, might watch something on TV, but it's just our little hangout area. And it actually used to go the entire length of the house, but when they put in the master closet all those years ago, they closed off part of it and did so with kind of a milk glass, which hides the unsightly mess on the other side. So this sketch was done by Louise LaQuire of me years ago at Montgomery Bell Academy in Nashville at one of their spring festivals. And Louise LaQuire, her son Alan LaQuire, is actually the one that did the statue of Athena that is located in the Parthenon in Nashville. Home to me is a place with my children and with our dog Ford, and when we are together, that is home.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Kate, and this is my house in Germantown, New York. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I am Kate Wood, and I am a historic rehabilitation strategist, which means that I work with homeowners and designers and their teams, all kinds of trades, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, to plan and perform beautiful historic preservation projects. We rescue and reimagine properties with historic character for the 21st century. So we are in a circa 1800 home in the Hudson Valley in Germantown, New York. It was built 225 years ago originally, and it was expanded over time. There are additions, but we are in the historic core right now, and this is one of my favorite places in the whole world. I feel very deeply connected with it because we bought it when it was essentially abandoned, and a lot of people knew it as the sweet little house on the curve of the road as it goes into the downtown of Germantown, but it just had this forlorn air about it, but you could look at it and realize that it was incredibly old, incredibly special, and when we came inside, we could see through all of the neglect and the deterioration, and we knew that it was truly special. And so what we did was we did a historic rehabilitation plan for it. We got it listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and we were able to work with a great team of carpenters and plumbers and electricians and all kinds of special historic trades to bring it back and to give it new life in the 21st century and make it into a really special family home. So welcome to the living room. What is interesting about this space, so this is the original circa 1800 part of the house. It has changed over time, so this is definitely not what it looked like circa 1800, but when we bought this house, the walls were covered with, that 1970s faux wood paneling, but underneath, when we peeled it back, was the original plaster. So we restored the plaster. These beams were exposed. There had been sheetrock that had infilled the spaces, so we peeled that back. And what we're looking at is actually the underside of the upstairs floor, and then these beams, which are part of the structure of the house. So these are not decorative beams. They're cased with a decorative wood, but they are structural. Since the ceiling is so low, people were telling me, paint it white, make it disappear. But actually I wanted to go the opposite direction. I wanted to go dark because I really loved the moodiness of this space, the intimacy and the coziness of it. But my concession to trying to reflect light was doing the high gloss ceiling, which I think really turned out well. The staircase illustrates a few things. This is not the original staircase. This staircase was probably added in the mid-19th century. This is not where the staircase was. In fact, when we looked underneath the staircase, we could see the outline of what was originally a hearth. So imagine here a big fireplace. So this would have been the primary living space for the house in the early 19th century. And also when we opened up the ceiling upstairs, you could see where the chimney exited through the roof. So we know that the fireplace was originally here. But, this speaks to another era of the house. And something that we decided to do with color in this house is whenever we would peel back layers, scrape down door frames, take down paneling, we would find layers of paint. And those colors really inspired us, and we felt like those colors were so much part of the character of this house that we wanted to recreate them in different kind of fun patterns. So this blue was a layer that we found, the salmon pink was a layer that was here, And so, when I was looking at this house and just thinking about what the color scheme should be, I thought, well, the color scheme's already here. It's just a matter of, where do you deploy those different colors? We can also look at, I mentioned that the floorboards are incredibly wide in this house. So that is because, in the early 19th century, it was still possible to get trees that were really old growth. So they would be, really thick, and then you could mill them down into these wide board floors. They're very humble. They were not supposed to be decorative. We love them today because they have that kind of patina of age and history, but they were just the wood that you used for floorboards back then. But so we definitely wanted to preserve those, and even all the nicks and dents and splintery parts, we kept all that too. Whenever I look at an old house, I start by identifying what's worth preserving. What are the character defining features that no matter what else we do, we want to make sure that they are preserved. So when I looked at this house, I love the fact that it had historic wood windows. It has these cased beams in the ceiling, and there were so many layers, and so as we were peeling them back, we decided which layers were at the end of their lifespan and needed to be removed, and which layers really spoke to the history and the evolution of the house. So those are the ones we kept. So when we walk around, you can see the cracks in the paint that show that there are many, many layers. You can see where we stripped down woodwork and exposed all those different layers from the different colors that it was painted over time. The floors, some of the floorboards in this house are 18 inches wide. So those are incredibly old floorboards, and we wanted to bring out the character of those floorboards. But then when it came to the kitchen, for example, we did a totally modern kitchen. The bathrooms, what we love to do is we go to salvage warehouses and we find old clawfoot tubs and pedestal sinks and sconces, and we like to bring those back, so that because a house like this never would have had indoor plumbing originally, so it makes sense that the bathroom, the kitchens, those parts of the house show different eras in its history. And our job, as we see it, is to bring out those different chapters in its history and to let it continue to speak and evolve as we live in it. I keep saying the word layers, but that's so much a part of what historic rehabilitation is to me. It's about marrying the beautiful parts of the past with... So this really speaks to what I mean when I say historic rehabilitation. So this is not restoration. Circa 1800, they never would have left all of these different layers of paint exposed. But over time, as tastes change, you can see the different colors. You can see the battleship gray, the kind of hunter green, the mustard yellow. Those just talk about, all the different periods and the different people who lived in this house. And when we scraped it back, we just loved the look of all of these layers. And so we kept that. We did put a clear coat over it. Probably there's some lead paint underneath that, but it's all encapsulated now. But I think this is the kind of finish that you could pay somebody a lot of money to recreate that. And we had it here. And again, it gives us inspiration for the different colors that we brought back through the paint and the furnishings in the house. A really special feature from the history of this house is this front door. It's not original, but it was added probably in the late 19th, early 20th century. And you see doors like this everywhere. So you see this plate here that says B. Muller. I looked back in the deeds, and that was actually Bessie Muller, and she lived here, a single woman, in the 1940s and 50s until she got married in her 70s, and I have a picture of her at her wedding, and then she sold the house. But to me, in part, this will always be B. Muller's house. So probably the boldest move in here was the sectional sofa, which is definitely not a period piece. It's something that I bought off of Chairish, and I took a chance on the color, and the color turned out to be perfect. So it matches that mustard yellow layer that we found in the house. But that makes that corner very functional. These chairs I had actually bought for my lobby in the building I live in New York City, when we were doing a lobby restoration project. They never quite worked there, but I brought them here, and I love the fact that they're light, they're modern, we can move them around depending on how we want to set this room up. A lot of the furniture, the antique pieces, came from my friends at Quitner Home. They are local here in Germantown, and they not only have an amazing eye for antiques, but they also do historically informed lighting and other home goods. So you'll see some of those things throughout the house, because they have been incredible collaborators in decorating this house. I love these swivel chairs. I found these at the architecture. Actually, I found these in the antiques warehouse in Hudson. They're probably from the 1980s. They had this really great kind of beige plaid upholstery on them. But I thought, again, they would be really functional in this room, because you can orient them however you want, however the conversation is, you can move them around. And then I had them reupholstered by an amazing local upholsterer that I love to work with, and he's terrific. I mean, that's what I love about the Hudson Valley, is you have access to all of these incredible trades and artisans who create beautiful things. So it really isn't hard to pull together a really interesting interior up here. So again, another Quitner Home find. They sourced these for me, and I think it was the color more than anything that I loved, and just the scale of them, but they're signs of the zodiac. And so they're just fun. All right, let's head over to the dining room. Follow me. I would have to say that my favorite space in this house is the dining room. And the dining room is part of an addition that was added probably in the 1860s. So it's not as old as the original part of the house, but it's very interesting the way that it was added on. It's almost like a lean-to, so it's on a different level, so you have to step down into it. And when you do, this whole other space opens up, and it's just full of light. The ceilings are higher in the newer part of the house. You know, it's just a great place to gather with friends. That's what we love using this house for, is bringing people together, having guests, having dinners, and you know, we light the fire and the stove, or in the summer we just open up all the windows, and it's just a great place to be. All right, so before we head to the dining room, I just want to show you this spot. So where I am standing was actually the one and only bathroom in the house when we first bought it. So it's right off of the living room, and I'm standing in, you know, there was a bathtub right here. And when we took out the bathtub and gutted this space because we were putting a new bathroom upstairs, we found that this was probably the original connection point between the old part of the house and the newer part that was built in the mid-19th century. So that was a really exciting discovery, because behind the tile board in this bathroom was with these wide board panels, and you know, you've got this decorative bead, all of these layers of paint, even wallpaper on some of the beams in here. But it was a really exciting discovery. Okay, so let's go to the dining room. Okay, so here we are in the dining room. Again, one of my favorite places in the house, because I love it when people can gather in this room. It looks beautiful during the day. We're getting ready for a springtime feast in here. Again, we have been working with Quitner Home, and a lot of these things are pieces that they have produced for their store here in Germantown. And as I mentioned, this is not an original space for the house. It was an add-on in the middle of the 19th century. And we had peeled back the sheetrock that had been added, during the 20th century, and again found the original plaster. I mentioned that when we took the bathroom out, we found what looked like a step coming down into the space, so we added these steps here. We added a railing, which we had a local metal worker produce, and it's just steel, oiled steel, very modern, very minimalist, but we wanted it to declare itself as an addition from the 21st century. But you see that it's attached to this paneling here. This was another really exciting discovery behind the sheetrock. Another huge board here. This one's probably 20 inches wide with the decorative bead. And you can see all the different layers of paint, the nail holes from maybe some shelving that was put up here, even a layer of vintage wallpaper, all of which we kept. And one of the things that I just kind of shiver whenever I see it, and it makes me happy, is these initials that were carved in the wood right here. You can see the RH, and I don't know who RH was, but they're still here, so that makes me happy. One thing that I should mention is that we got this house listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and that made it eligible for historic rehabilitation tax credits. So that is a really great program where you can do it for both owner-occupied properties as well as commercial income-producing properties. So it makes you eligible for tax credits based on the amount of money that you spend on historic rehabilitation. So we did that program with this house, and it just meant that we needed to go through a review process with the state. And we had to show them what we were planning as far as the floor plan, the finishes, the fixtures. This was an antique fixture that we found at a nearby salvage warehouse. I believe this one came from Zaborski Emporium in Kingston, which is a favorite. It's where we get lots of bathtubs and sinks and all kinds of radiators, all kinds of beautiful things. So we picked that. And this corner cupboard over here is kind of a funny story, because I was working on a project for a client who we were rehabbing a 1940s house. So this was in her dining room, and she hated it. And I loved it because it's classic colonial revival, 20th century. You can see the Chippendale broken pediment top on it. I mean, this corner cabinet was in almost every house from the 19 teens on, but she didn't like it. So I thought, well, it would work here because this house, again, it's all about the evolution. Who's to say that someone in the 1920s or 30s wouldn't have wanted to put a cabinet in like this? And fortunately, it just fit with the ceiling height. So I am a big fan of historic wood windows. I believe that there are very few windows that can't be restored. In fact, I've never seen one that can't be restored. And when they are restored, they are way more beautiful and just as energy efficient as any modern window that you're going to buy off the shelf. And they will last forever because you can continue to repair and refresh them year after year after year. These are not original to the house. Well, they probably are late 19th century. This house has a whole assortment of different windows. There's 6/6 windows, which means, there's 6 lights. These are 2/2 windows, double hung with the pins that you pull out, and then you can set them to whatever height you want them to be open to. This is the hill that I will die on, preserving historic windows. So I love wood burning stoves. This one is one that we got secondhand, and it works beautifully. In fact, it gets really hot in this room when we have it going, but there's nothing that I love more than a dinner by the fire. So we get this going in the winter and it just makes things really cheery. I mentioned that there was a bathroom that blocked off what we think was the original connection between the old part of the house and the new part. But it seems that at some point when that bathroom was installed, they created a new access point here. And it's very awkward. It's right at the bottom of the other staircase. And in fact, it was such an issue that someone at some point had put caution tape on the floor so that you wouldn't fall down both sets of stairs. So we covered over those stairs, but we wanted to keep them because, again, it's about the story and the layers. And here they are, still underneath here, still with the caution tape, and it's a good hiding place. So now I'm going to take you upstairs, but I want to point out as we go the paint on the stairs because, again, it evokes the different layers that we found in the house. But I had this really wonderful painter do a painted runner. I didn't want to put an actual carpet runner on it. I love the idea of doing a very precisely painted runner, and she was able to figure out all the geometry. I have no idea how, but she's amazing. So this house was originally built around 1800. We traced it back in the deeds, and we believe that based on the historical documentation and what we can read in the structure of this house, that it was originally built about 225 years ago. And it was very modest. This is not a grand house for rich people. This is what is referred to as a house for the middling people. So these were farmers. These were people who worked in the community, families that had been here already by 1800 for maybe a century or more. So this house is very much of this community, of this region in the Hudson Valley. It looks very modest from the outside. It's very humble, but if you look at the shape of the roof, if you look at the beams, you can find those details that evoke the very early 19th century. And then you can see the way that it was expanded over time. And so, that way of telling the story, not just of the house, but of the community, we thought was really important. It's important that we preserve not just places that reflect the upper classes. When we look at houses, and when I say we, I mean my husband, my family, we have bought and rehabilitated several houses in this community. And we always focus on houses that otherwise might be lost, whose history might be forgotten. So we figure that the grand houses on the Hudson River or in the hills, the mansions from the old local aristocracy, that those houses will somehow be preserved. But it's these more modest houses that really are so much about it's these more modern houses that really make a difference in every community, because this house is so visible. It's right on the road. You can't miss it when you're coming or going from Germantown. So to see this house so dilapidated and so abandoned really brought the whole spirit of the place down. And so by rehabbing it and bringing it back and making it sort of an energetic part of the community again, we feel like we've done right by this house, and I think that it has really added something to the life of the place that we call home. So here we are upstairs. This was an area that we made more extensive changes because of the way that it had been broken up. There was not a bathroom up here. There were 2 bedrooms, but you had to walk through one bedroom to get to the other bedroom. Because this is an upstairs kind of secondary space, when we were working with the state on the historic rehabilitation tax credits, we had a lot more flexibility to reconfigure up here. And of course, we kept the newel post and the stair railing. We kept the historic windows. But what you see here, it's sheetrock, it's new, flat casing around the doors, the baseboard. We kept the historic floors, but we reconfigured the space so that we have this kind of sitting room, extra swing space that has a small bed that could be used as like a day bed, or maybe a child or a single adult sleeps up here adjacent to the main bedroom. So now we'll go into the main bedroom. So this house is what we would call a story and a half. So upstairs, you've got a little bit of wall, but then a lot of ceiling slope. We added this skylight. Before it felt very close, it felt very dark up here. And that skylight, which is on the back side of the house, not visible from the street, is a game changer up here. It brings so much light, and it has an automatic shade on it so that you can black out if you want to. I love waking up to the sun, so this is great for me. Again, another thing that we did, we kept the historic windows. We added the split unit to have air conditioning upstairs. Downstairs, we put radiant heat under all of the floors. So all of that heat rises up. We never have to heat upstairs, but in the summer we do use the air conditioning. Again, a lot of antique finds from our friends at Quitner. So now I will show you the bathroom that we added upstairs. So we carved out this corner. We had to navigate this sloping ceiling to get our floor plan. But again, we use salvage fixtures from our friends at Zaborski, the clawfoot tub, the pedestal sink, the sconce, and then they still make the reproduction shower for tubs like this. So we use that. So because we were changing the layout up here, we had to move around some of the doors. And in fact, we ended up with not enough doors. So we have even salvage doors that we were able to find from different places. So the doors are all a little bit different, but some of them have their original hardware, this tiger eye porcelain knob here. You can also find these reproduction online. You can reproduce this look. So this one's just a 2-panel door with, again, this beautiful tiger eye porcelain knob. In all of the house rehab projects that I do, I always recommend the old-fashioned push-button switches with the mother of pearl inlay. I just think they're so beautiful, and I love the way they sound, and you can also get them on dimmers. Well, I feel like I was born to be a preservationist. I discovered historic preservation, that it was actually a career path when I was a teenager. I literally felt like, okay, that's it. That's what I want to do with my life. I had spent my childhood traveling around in our family's Volkswagen bus, going from historic battlefield to house museum to national park to presidential library. So we traveled the entire country going to historic sites. And so it just felt like it was a normal part of life. And I grew up in a 1927 Tudor Revival style house in New Jersey. And we were always working on that house. I mean, you'd get up in the morning and you'd pick up a paintbrush and you'd paint your room. So I feel like that just felt like it was normal life. And so when I was able to decide on going to college and going to graduate school, I took a path of studying anthropology and archaeology, and then I studied historic preservation and urban planning at Columbia University. I went into community advocacy, fighting to preserve landmarks and historic districts on Manhattan's Upper West Side, and I did that for many, many years. And then I decided to take that sense of mission and advocacy and apply it to helping individual homeowners and giving them the kind of advice that, frankly, I wish I'd had when I was rehabbing my own house, which we bought a house in the Hudson Valley about 15 years ago. And again, an abandoned house that needed everything. You know, I felt like I could give back the lessons that I'd learned, my very extensive background and training in historic preservation. And when I work with people, it is very much a partnership. I am listening to what their needs are. This is about making houses function in the 21st century. And then they're listening to me. And what do I see when I look at their house? What do I see that's worth preserving? And then we come up with a vision together, and then we gather the team and we make it happen. So here we are in the kind of sitting room, swing, sleep space. I love this alcove here that is the perfect size for a twin bed. And it's a great place to just lie down in the afternoon and read, or you can sleep a child or an adult here. In fact, we've had friends stay here before who use this as an artist studio up here, and it works beautifully for that as well, because you've got this great light that comes in through these windows. Right now, this time of year, you can stand here and you can see through the trees to the Catskill Mountains. So to me, home is a relationship. You know, you're never done creating a home. It is ongoing. Sometimes it's love, sometimes it's hate, but you get up every day and you work on it. And to me, that is what home is really about. It's that give and take relationship that you have with a place.
Hello, Homeworthy. My name is David. Welcome to my home in LA. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
So my name is David Alhadeff, and I'm the founder and owner of The Future Perfect. The Future Perfect is a design gallery. We have locations in New York, San Francisco, and here in LA. And you're actually in our location, which doubles as my home here in Los Angeles. So we're standing in the home, which is the location of The Future Perfect. The house was built in 1913 by a local real estate developer, R.E. Fuller, and then it was purchased in 1916 by Samuel Goldwyn, who lived here from 1916 till 1925, which gave its affectionate nickname that we call it the Goldwyn House. I bought the house in March of 2022, and I bought it because it had such a beautiful history and it was sited so beautifully. I loved the gardens. I loved the formality of the house. I thought there was something really special about this old layout, and yet it was in such perfect condition. So what we really did in our renovation was we aimed to really bring back some of the original character and features of the house. We undid, if you will, a couple of the previous renovations in an attempt to really give this house a historical feeling and flavor. This doubles as my house and also our gallery. We use the spaces quite fluidly. As I walk you through the home, you're going to see spaces that are set up very much like gallery exhibitions or installations, and you'll see rooms that function quite typically as a room. For example, behind me we have our dining room, or on the other side of me, which you'll see in a moment, we have our exhibition space where we're showing work from LGS Studio. We're constantly rotating our spaces, both these lived-in spaces and the exhibition spaces. Okay, this is the main foyer of the house. I really love this room. It's such a atypical thing now in contemporary design to have such a grand entranceway. For the staircase, we did this rug, which actually is the Future Perfect's design, which we created with Christopher Farr. I couldn't imagine a better and more exemplary creator of fine rugs. We have this table here, which I want you to get close and take a look. It has this beautiful mirrored finish. It's part of the Geo series by Chen Chen and Kai Williams. And on it, we have one of John Hogan's water lenses. John Hogan is a Seattle-based glass blowing artist. His work is really fantastic. You'll see more of it as we go through the house. And then the ceramics in the space are all by Cody Hoyt. And Cody Hoyt is a Brooklyn-based ceramicist. His work is really special. He works with this technique that I don't know if any of you made Fimo bracelets back in grade school, but it's the same idea. He actually creates a pattern rolling clay and then cuts slices of it and applies it like a tile to the piece to create sort of these either very abstract or highly geometric or sometimes very figurative designs for his work. I also want to show you the lighting in the room. The lighting here is by Jason Koharic. This is part of the Ontogeny collection, which he did exclusively for the Future Perfect. And we have the sconces here, and then we also have this amazing flush mount right over here. What I loved about this house was all of the layers and all of the history that was here in these beautiful moldings and plasterwork that was pre-existing to the space. The fireplace actually is a great example of work that we did or undid in the space. This beautiful Batch Elder tile was covered with like a gray garage style floor paint. I figured it was completely destroyed underneath it, so I had my contractor just kind of like scrape off a little bit just to see what was under it, and we revealed this absolutely beautiful like blue purpley beige color that actually became the palette for the entire house. You'll notice the blue that picked up in the rug on the stairs, and as we go through the house you'll see the tone of the walls was picked up from this as well. Really everything. I worked with Camp Plaster, who did their plaster everything technique for us, and they literally came in and just top to bottom completely created a unified presence for the space, which I think took all of the molding and made it feel quite modern. And I was really attracted to that idea for the space because, again, as both home and gallery, I was looking for a way to create rooms that we could use fluidly to showcase our program and live in seamlessly. The fires that happened in January, obviously we all heard about them, and like a lot of news stories, you know, they go in and out of our consciousness based on the news cycle. But really, the devastation of the fires, I think, is only just now starting to be understood, especially by people who are living with homes lost. Being someone who almost lost our home, my sense of it is total gratitude. You know, I'm someone who can really try to make drama out of nothing. I think it's just a piece of who I am. I'm a bit prone to drama, but with this, I couldn't attempt to take ownership of any of the drama of the fires personally. You know, I know too many people who have lost their homes, lost their studios, lost their practices, and I think the idea of losing everything is something that no one wants to really confront. When I think a bit about objects and losing things, you know, obviously working with objects and working with a lot of very special pieces, for me, the thing that occurs to me is that it's not just the things that have monetary value that we prize within our spaces, but we prize those things that we have applied meaning to. So the objects of meaning, you know, the painting that perhaps is worthless monetarily, but that was done by an old relative who's deceased, you know, a special ring that was given to someone from someone in the family, again, monetarily, maybe have very little value, but it holds a lot of emotional value. And those are the things that I sort of thought about a bit when confronted with evacuation orders. Since then, the Future Perfect has done and will continue to support efforts to raise funds for people who have lost everything. We've been supporting Grief and Hope, which is a fund that directly supports creatives, specifically creatives in our community who have lost their homes, their studios, and their livelihood because of the fires. And then we have also supported our local fire station because they quite legitimately saved our house. I think the fire is something deeply personal. You know, it's very hard to empathize with the gravity of loss until you faced it. You know, like I have no idea what it would be like to lose my home, to lose the possessions in my home, to lose my whole life. You know, what I do know is what it felt like to get an evacuation call, which was really, really scary. Maybe the most scared that I'd been in a very long time in a legitimate way, but I truly have no sense of what it could feel like to lose everything. We did an online auction to support Grief and Hope in our local fire station, and throughout the year we're going to continue to program events to help to continue to support the community. If you want to get involved in any of that, you can reach out to us through the Future Perfect. In designing the home, when I think about fluidly living in the spaces, I have to forego a certain amount of comfort at times because, for example, as we go in the living room, you'll see the living room is truly presented right now as a gallery. But in a month, we'll bring in an entire living room suite of furniture and it will feel completely different. So because of the fluidity of the way that we change the house, it both constricts and expands the way that I can live in the house. Okay, now let me take you in the living room. First, I want to show you this really cool thing that we found. So when we got to the house, this was actually a closet, and behind the closet there was this old safe, which must have been the original safe for the house. And we turned it into this cool vignette to showcase sculpture, also by John Hogan. And then I put a little secret guy in there, just in case everybody ever opens it. I always figured it's nice if they can see my little, nothing for sale in there, just more something that's like, oh, a little treat if you decide to open the safe. Here in the living room, we're presenting work from LGS Studio, a local duo of ceramicists and glass artists who have created all of this exceptionally beautiful work for us. LGS Studio is a ceramic studio in LA. It is a duo, Noel Hennessy and Thomas Renaud, and they work together to create this beautiful work. LGS has just started doing works in glass, which we're presenting here, I think, for the first time ever. The glass works are really an extension of the Mesozoic series of work, which Noel and Thomas started working on. We have this example here. And what this is are their studies of paleobotany, which is studies of flora and fauna from the Paleo era. Living with a 2-year-old in a space like this does require a lot of very close attention, I have to say, especially with the way the space is right now. As I said, spaces are fluid, so this could be a really kid-friendly space for a period, but right now it's definitely not. We definitely have spaces in the home that are private, if you will, and entirely suited to the family. As I said, we worked with Camp to do all the plaster in the house. And although the plaster is changing colors because it does that depending on the light, it is all entirely the same color that you're seeing throughout the entire home. So building on the Mesozoic series, Noel and Thomas started doing these works in glass, which I think more abstractly refer as well to that same flora fauna. These are exclusive to us, and I'm really, really excited about them. All of the moldings were original to the house as we found it, and I think we've come to realize that they were original to the house. That's what attracted me to the home, was it was in really good architectural condition for its age. It did need a little bit of cosmetic renovation, but that didn't seem too daunting given the aesthetic history that we sort of walked in on. Actually, this house had been on the market for like a year when I first saw it. I avoided it because I called it quite unaffectionately with my realtor the granny house, because everything was painted in this really bad way, and it just didn't really present or photograph very well. So he kept showing it to me as an option, and I kept coming back to him and saying, I don't want to see the granny house. But if we all remember 2022, it was almost impossible to find a house at that time. It was, I mean, I think it still is. I think the market is still really, really tight. So eventually I got worn down, and my realtor took me here, and I walked in and immediately fell in love. And I think maybe it's what they say, where the house that's meant for you is waiting for you, because it is shocking in March of 2022 that this had been sitting on the market for so long. When we started the gallery in residence concept, we came out to LA in 2017, and I think the reason why I did it looking back was I was really daunted, if you will, by the real estate, the commercial real estate market here in Los Angeles. And every time I'd come out to look at spaces, I couldn't figure out what neighborhood we should be in. I couldn't figure out the values of the neighborhoods. I couldn't understand what makes somebody stop their car and come into your store in Los Angeles. I mean, it is still a conundrum that I think I am challenged with. So what I thought to myself was, well, I really want to be more in LA. What if I take a house? I'll be able to spend more time in that house. I'll live in that house, and then we'll use it as our gallery space as well. And this dual purpose kind of occurred to me as a way to introduce the community here to our program and introduce me to Los Angeles. It turned out that it worked. So we've had, I think this is our 4th house. Our first house was a classic mid-century modern case study house in the West Hollywood Hills by David Hayoun. Our second house was actually the Elvis Presley estate in Truesdale, which was as amazing as it sounds. And then our third house, we returned to kind of architecture, if you will, with a home by Raul Garduno from the 1970s. It was totally different from that mid-century 50s house or that 60s Elvis Presley house. It was completely intact architectural masterpiece from the 70s. It had wall-to-wall carpet and popcorn ceilings. I mean, it was really, really cool. But for the house that we purchased and ultimately came to, the Goldwyn house, I wanted something that had a timelessness to it, a quality of history. I wanted grounds. I wanted a sense of space. I wanted to play more with the outside. I wanted to do more sculptural works that could be site specific. And I'm so excited to show you some of those a little later. I want to show you this really cool thing. This also was covered in that same gray floor paint. It is an electric fireplace. I'm still looking for these light bulbs. So if anybody has a connection to these, please let me know. But check this out. You turn it on and it actually gets really warm really quickly. So I think this was also probably not original to the house, but it was probably put in relatively shortly after the house was originally built. And I just think it's so cool. And again, like I said, if anybody has a connection to these light bulbs, please let me know, as I have one missing. So we're standing here in what is the side entrance of the house, but unlike any other home that I'd seen, the side entrance, which should be the informal entrance of the house, is actually incredibly formal. And this really worked for the way that we live and work in the house as a gallery. So what I love was that you come into this incredibly formal hallway space, and then you have the living room gallery here to my left, and then to my right is this, what I call the media room, although it doesn't have a TV in it right now. For this room, we found it, the wood was like a really shiny cherry color. It wasn't necessarily, I knew the wood wasn't bad, but the tone was totally off. So we completely stripped it, brought it to this like walnut finish, hopefully a little more matte than it was originally. And then in the house, we're presenting work from Sarah Solis. She did the upholstery work you see here, these great chairs, this beautiful coffee table. We also have sculptural stools by Ian Collings. I love these pieces. The Future Perfect was started a little over 20 years ago. I had been working in the tech industry and I loved it, but I wanted to do something that was more tangible, more concrete. And I had always loved interior design, architecture, objects, furniture design. And I just thought I would feel good in that space, and I found a space in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and you got to take yourself back 20 years. I mean, there was really nothing there. And I thought this would be a really interesting space to work with this idea of the place where art and design kind of meet, So I started working with functional objects that had an artful character to them. This was again 20 years ago. And the space, actually my first Williamsburg original space, is now the brand new Hermes store that's opening up in Williamsburg, which is insane. The Future Perfect is really about the relationships. I mean, there's so many amazing people doing work and creating work in this time that we live in. I think for us, it's about this small community of craftspeople, makers, artists, and artisans that we have pulled together to be a part of our program, which really roots itself mostly in the fact that it's contemporary. I mean, first and foremost, that's probably the only through line in the entire program, is that it's all contemporary, because we have works in metal, we have works in stone, we have more traditional furniture, we have limited edition and one-of-a-kind pieces. It's a really eclectic program in terms of the vastness of it, but for me, the interest is about works that's contemporary. Now, I understand that historical design is very much a part of the way that people decorate their homes and live in their homes. And I too, in my more private spaces, also have some historical design as well. So I empathize with that feeling of wanting eclecticism or wanting to live with work from many different periods. What we see ourselves as is the preeminent source for incredible contemporary work. For me, the art is nothing without the artist, or the artist is nothing without the art. I think we are first attracted to the aesthetics. Like anyone, you stop the scroll on the Instagram, you see something that's really inspiring, piques your interest, it catches your eye. But if the person isn't somebody who we feel a connection to, that we can't build a relationship with, then unfortunately sometimes we don't necessarily work with every artist whose work we love, if that makes any sense. The lighting in the room is by Anna Carlin. She is a New York-based designer, and this is her sketch series, and I think it's aptly named. You can kind of understand this sort of like this pencil sketch in the air that's kind of drawn out with these beautiful illuminated shades. She also did the sconces on the wall back here, and she did the amazing light we have in the side entry right here. I think this piece is really, really special. I love it. You know, at first glance, it's just a simple kind of, paper pendant, but actually on close examination, the asymmetry of it is really beautiful and the ceiling rose is really special. I also want to show you this bowl by Vikram Goyal, who is an Indian-based artist and designer who we just started working with. We just launched his work at Design Miami this last year, Design Miami 2024 in Miami. And he works in sheet metal, and then he's trapped these kind of semi-precious stones in the metal, and it's just amazing work. His studio is fascinating. I could go on and on about his studio, but he's really an example of someone who I'm very fascinated. I think he creates a beautiful sort of exemplification of how we work with artists in our program, because he's an artist who lives and works in India, and he found this this craft that was sort of becoming extinct, if you will. It was called repoussage, and it's the art of drawing in sheet metal. So basically you take sheets of metal and you put it on this wax plane. I mean, it's probably like the size of this room, is the scale that we're talking about. So you put it into the wax, you heat up the metal, you push it into the wax, and then you begin pressing a drawing or a relief into the metal on the wax. And this was a dying art, which he took and created a cottage industry for within his studio. And now I think he has like over 200 people who work on repoussage in his studio. So the work in this space, as I mentioned, is by Sarah Solis, who I think you guys might have even visited a couple weeks back here. And I just want to show you, this chair is probably my favorite chair in the whole house. It is just so comfortable. Sarah's work is so amazing because she's really capturing, I think, an aesthetic that feels somewhat historical, but at the same time is totally contemporary to me. I just love what she's doing. Living in a gallery might seem like a very daunting idea. It might seem overwhelming and a little like, please do not touch being the way to live in a place, being uncomfortable. We live here with our 2-year-old son, and we're raising him in this space. It is at times a bit uncomfortable, but I'll say for those of you that love change and that love interior design and decoration, there's nothing more fun than having the flexibility to recreate spaces in the home like every 3-6 months. I mean, we're constantly redoing things. So it really taps into this energy that I love, which is about change and about newness. So this is both a home and a gallery, which means that we live here, but also everything that we see is also for sale. First, I want to tell you about doing the dining room. So I worked with Nicole Hollis, who's a really great client and also a good, close personal friend of mine, on this room. Working with Nicole was really a treat, and although I had to battle my demons to be able to do this and to relinquish control, because that's really the hard part, right? Is like giving up control and letting someone else create and execute their vision in our space. But working with Nicole was an absolute treat, and now I would say this is my absolute favorite room in the house. So I want to take you guys in here and show you what we've done. Nicole worked with a number of different artists from our roster to create this room. The chandelier is by Chris Woolston. The dining table is entirely in ceramic. It's solid ceramic, and it's by Floris Wubin. The glaze that he created is actually a special glaze that was done for a new series that he's doing, which is these larger scale furniture pieces. It's pretty incredible to make work at this scale in ceramic, and Floris has actually increased his studio capabilities so he can create single pieces of furniture that I think are like 98 inches by 40-ish inches by about 30 inches tall, which is really unbelievable. If you'll see under the base on the table is also just amazing. It's just so beautiful. The chairs are by Niloufar's Open Editions. The rug is by Balmaceda, and the console is stone by Arthur Vallon. Probably the most difficult thing that we had to contend with this space was the wall finish. The walls were previously wallpapered, and it was quite light, it was airy, it was sitting more comfortably with the rest of the house. And this is probably the place that I also had to confront my demons the most as well, was Nicole presented an idea where she wanted the room to be quite dark. And I loved the idea, but coming up with exactly the right finish and the right tone was the most challenging part of the project. So I worked very closely with Amy from Camp Studios, and I literally took Amy back to her studio at like 6 p.m. on a Friday night and was like, Amy, let's go custom mix some colors. And she and we drove back there, and she was just such a treat to work with, and she just sat with me, and for I feel like it was like 1 or 2 hours. I mean, we didn't leave her studio until about 8 o'clock at night on a Friday, and we left with like 4 or 5 custom samples that we had created, and we sent them off to Nicole, and Nicole selected this one for the room, which I think turned out amazing. We call it, I think it was called metallic bronze plaster. I think it does conjure sort of a period of painterliness, but there's also something raw about it and kind of craft punk. You know, if you look really closely, some of the trowel marks are left intentionally in the walls, which I think is really amazing because it takes something that could have been a bit fussy. I think that's the best part about it, is that messing it up actually creates this quality that feels super modern, so that it's not overly fussy, and there's something really special about it. You know, the handmadeness is apparent in the detail and the quality of the work. I think that natural light is just one of the key features or characteristics about LA living. You know, I mean, living without natural light in LA feels like a sin. So of course, for me, having big windows and a lot of light was really, really important. There's 2 things that you can look for in real estate that have value in LA. One is a view, and the second is privacy. And this house doesn't really have a view, but it does have privacy. And it's so special to have this much grounds and this much land and be so private. My style wasn't necessarily trained educationally for me. You know, I've always felt like a fraud in this business. I think those of us who are self-taught kind of carry that weight or that burden of feeling a bit like a fraud in our careers. But for me, it's like 20 years later, I finally recognized, well, I probably do know a thing or two with my business, just given the time that I've spent with it, you know, but I wasn't formally trained, and I kind of came to it very naturally from just liking what I like. You know, people say I had a good eye growing up, but I never really knew what that meant. It was very natural for me though to have an affinity towards something that was special, and I feel like that's part of what I love doing even today, is finding something that feels really, really special from a talent that isn't necessarily well recognized yet. And the sculptures on the table are by John Hogan, whose work we've seen in a couple of the other spaces, but he did these specially for this room with the intention that they would be viewed in a room that's dark, which I think is very effective. Okay, so I mentioned a little earlier that one of the reasons why I wanted to buy a house, and this house in particular, was I wanted the opportunity to work with artists to create site-specific works for the house. So the first thing we did was we worked with artist Chris Woolston, and he did the powder room for us, which I want to show you. It's a tight space, so I'm going to let you guys go in there without me. But Chris created this beautiful sink for us, the chandelier, the sconces, and he even created the toilet paper holder. Okay, let me take you outside and I'll show you the gardens. Okay, welcome outside. This is my favorite part of the house. When we got here, it wasn't bad. The structure was all good, but I worked with an amazing landscape artist, Art Luna, who helped us to completely rethink all of the plantings. So basically, anything that isn't over 10 feet tall, we did. And what I learned from Art was that to create an established garden new, you have to buy material that is established. So everything that you see, we actually put in, and it's my favorite part of the house. It also creates a perfect backdrop for us to showcase some of our work in this context as well. You have the loungers by Shore Studio, some ceramic stools by Floris Wubin. Okay, I want to take you guys to the shade garden. It has one of my favorite things in the whole house. I think there's a lot of my favorite things in the whole house, I have to say. I keep saying that, but it's true. This place is truly a playground for things I love the most. So we worked with the French ceramic artist Olivia Cognier, and she created for us this site-specific work of art where she transformed the outdoor fire pit into truly a piece of art. I love hanging out here. I love, like, my office is right there, and I literally come outside light the fire, take phone calls. It's incredible. You know, we were, in fact, Art Luna, he helped a little bit with this. He said, you know, he wanted the fire to feel a bit like it was lava, you know, flowing over into the garden, and that these little lily pads would create this idea of flow, you know, or like embers, you know, which is super amazing. But I think that this is one of, at least of the outside, this is my favorite part of the outside, and it's the place I hang out the most. I love the dining room because it's about community, it's about family, it's about eating, it's about breaking bread, you know, it's about sharing time with people. And this space, I think, is fire. So it's kind of the same idea. It's the hearth of the outside, which is really beautiful. I can say I'm not a plant expert, but when I go to nurseries and visit nurseries, I can be attracted to things just like I am in every other part of my life. And I became fascinated with these, which I don't know the name of. And those of you that are plant aficionados will know much better than me, so I won't attempt to, you know, to put myself out there for correction. But I just love it. They're a form of fern, you know, staghorn fern, and I think they're really special. So basically, they have a single leaf, and the one leaf kind of grows. I think there might be a better example of it over here. Yeah, like this one is just starting, and the one leaf starts here. And then it becomes, it like twists and forms the entirety of the structure. So right now this leaf is growing, you can kind of see covering the brown part of this plant here. Let me take you up to the sculpture garden. I can show you this project we did with Dan John Anderson. We had these trees, they were super giants. They were like over 100 years old. Probably built before the house was even built, or probably planted before the house was even built. And they were back here and here where we currently have these beautiful thrones. What happened is these giant trees started dropping really big branches, like not just little bits, but huge parts of the tree started falling. And we had an arborist in and they told us the tree was dying, it was sick. So I took it as a big decision to cut something down that was twice as old as me. We made the decision to fell the trees, and instead of completely removing them, I kept about, I don't know, 8 or 10 feet of the tree in place, and I asked Dan John Anderson, who's an artist that we work with, to carve them. And I told him he had totally carte blanche, he could do anything he wanted, but they had to be seats so that we could experience the sculpture garden from them. I think he did a really magical job of transforming the base of the tree into this amazing chair. I've never actually sat in it. These are super new. They're amazing. I feel like, you know, it's that thing with me where I feel like I can't sit in the thing that I live with, even though it's site specific to the house, but I prefer to look at it than to sit in it. And he did 2 different versions. So he spent probably about, I feel like he came out for about 4 or 5 sessions, and each session he spent 3 or 4 days here carving and then finishing the pieces. He burned them, which was really, really cool to watch. It was controlled. So here in the sculpture garden, when we moved in, this was actually, there was like a big old kind of fiberglass fancy fountain, and there was a bunch of other like smaller bushes and trees in here, but we cleared it all. And then Art recommended that we put in these platforms or stages, if you will, which we built in boxwood, which helped to create a sense of space in the garden. This table is by Olivia Cognier. She did the fireplace. She also does furniture, objects, and sculptures. She does these beautiful wall murals as well. And then I'll take you guys to the pool. I love a diving board. Who doesn't love a diving board? It's so old school and super scary, but also kind of amazing. I'd jump in for you, but the pool's not heated. I would take you guys in the pool house, but right now we're in between. As I said, the spaces in the house are fluid and we're always working on them. So we're getting ready for an installation we're doing with MJ Kim, and her show will open end of April. Okay, let me show you upstairs. Yeah, the upstairs is still very much like the rest of the house. It's fluid. It's gallery spaces along with a couple spaces that are totally private. The first thing I want to show you is the chandelier that we hung here in the foyer by Carl Zahn. You can book an appointment if you want to visit the house on our website. It's www.thefutureperfect.com. And you can book your appointment and come by. And one of the things that's surprising, I think, for a lot of people is that although what we do is very special, the range of prices in the home is really quite vast. So yeah, come on by, check it out. And if you want to buy something, you just let us know. So we're here in the upper hallway. And I wanted to stop here for a sec because I wanted to show you these sconces, which are by Chen Chen and Kai Williams. They're called the Stone Roses. I love that name. It makes perfect sense because they are made of stone and they are flowers. But what I love the most about this work is the honesty in the welds that they've left here. They're perfectly done, but they didn't finish them back to the brass. They left them, and I think that's really indicative of their process and how they work, and the way that just reveals itself is really appealing to me. Let me take you right in here. Ben Willett is new to our program. He is a designer who lives and works here in Los Angeles, and all of the work in this room is by him. I think Ben Willett has a really distinctive style that comes through in all of his work, whether it's this kind of amazing amorphously shaped lacquered coffee table, or this really cool suite of dining tables and chairs where the chairs kind of tuck in so perfectly. But the chairs are also just so beautiful. I think the work is really special that he does. So this is the real guest bedroom. This is another one of those fluid spaces. This is the space that my mom stays, my mother-in-law stays, but our favorite house guest by far is our son's godfather, Colin King, because nobody knows how to put the room back together again quite the same way as Colin. If you ever want to come and stay at the Goldwyn house, the rules are as follows. No, I'm just kidding. There are no rules. We will always take care of the house and put it back together again. You can always just stay here like it's yours and make it really easy.